Hello and welcome to our webinar today, Preparing for Life and Work in Oulu, Finland. I appreciate everybody coming here today. We're going to have some good topics. On today's agenda, we'll do a little short introduction. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Then I'll go into living and working in Oulu, and I'll review some things about finding assistance whenever you come here to Oulu and the things that are helpful for you if you're like a newcomer here. And then we'll have Max come on, and he's going to be talking about the ICT job market in Oulu. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A session. So yeah, for the Q&As, there's going to be a chat box here. You can just go ahead and put your questions there, and at the end, we'll answer those questions that you have put there. So my name's Adrian. I'm originally from Texas, United States. I've been living in Oulu for 11 years, and currently I am an intern at International House Oulu for marketing and communications. And yeah, that's a little bit about myself. I've worked a few different jobs in sales for some technology companies, and yeah, that's a little bit about myself. What is International House Oulu? So International House Oulu has been around for 1 year. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary a couple weeks ago. And yeah, so what it is it's a service for immigrants or people coming to Finland, and they would like some assistance of how they could integrate into the culture here. We'll go more into depth about International House Oulu in a little bit. So Oulu is like in the mid part of Finland. Some people say Finland looks like a woman wearing a dress and with their arm hanging out there. And yeah, but there's about 2.5 million people that live in this northern part of Finland, and in Oulu there's around 270,000 people. And yeah, flying from the airport from Helsinki takes about an hour, 50 minutes to an hour. Oulu is the second busiest airport in Finland. There are trains and a lot of different transportations that you can use, and you can see here winter cycling capital. All year round people are cycling in Oulu, and there's like almost 1,000 kilometers of bike paths around the city. So living in Oulu, the people here are really laid back and very welcoming. They also are really interested into knowing who you are. I've been here 11 years, and every time I meet somebody, they ask me all the same questions about what I'm doing here, how did I come here, where I'm from, and then they also want to know so many things about back home in Texas as well. So everybody's really welcoming here. And nature is everywhere here in Finland. I think you probably, if you're not aware, I think there's 100,000 lakes, if I'm not mistaken, and the nature is very preserved here. So even I live in the city center, I could ride my bike 10 minutes and I'm already in nature. You can ride your bike anywhere into Oulu within 20 minutes. I like to say it's better to take a bike than to get on a bus sometimes. If it depends on where you're going. So yeah, so 4 seasons here. The seasons in the weather here, it changes a lot. My favorite is summer. That's my favorite part of the year, but fall is also really nice. The leaves changing colors. They call it ruska here. So it's like whenever the leaves are going from green to orange to red to brown. It's really beautiful. And also in the winter, that for me is my toughest part. But what I like to keep in mind is that everybody that is living in Oulu is going through the same thing. So we're all in this together. That's what I help myself to get through the tough times in the winter. But there's a lot of fun things to do there in the winter too, so don't worry about that. And then springtime is really nice, especially the snow's melting, and the bike paths are getting clear. And you start seeing the flowers bloom. Really, really beautiful. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Finnish work culture. what I really like about the work environment and the work culture here in Finland is how they respect and value work-life balance. So they're always understanding about when it comes to your own personal time, especially when it comes to family and kids. They really respect that. They also value mental health a lot here. So like some workplaces, they offer help if you're going through some mental health problems, and that's really nice. And they also trust you. So, they give you a task. You don't have a manager like over you, making sure that you're doing all your tasks all the time. Like they tell you, here's what you're hired to do, and they trust that you're going to do that. And there's plenty to do in Oulu. There's a lot of events happening, a lot of cultural events, and there's a lot of festivals, big festivals, smaller festivals. You can really find your group of people that you like, things that you're interested in. You can find some type of event that you can go to, and you'll find a group of people that have the same interests as you. So yeah, I had a chance to interview Thomas Slesar. He's actually from Slovakia, and he had a lot of great things to say about his experience here. And here's a quote from him. It says, "Oulu's work culture feels like a breath of fresh air. The balance of freedom and responsibility is a revelation compared to Eastern Europe, fostering a sense of equality and camaraderie." And whenever I had a chance to interview him, he was just talking about how much it's like the respect and the trust again. It always comes back to the trust of his company, knowing that he's going to get the job done. And I also interviewed Eduardo Tominaga. He's from Brazil. He's a PhD researcher. And he's on the 6G flagship committee or team, and he's doing some 6G studies. And he says Oulu not only nurtures academic pursuits, but also fosters personal growth and resilience. Surrounded by a supportive community, I've conquered challenges and thrived, making Oulu truly feel like home. So when it comes to finding assistance, you can come to International House Oulu, or you can also get like guidance, consultation for future residents, a 30-minute consultation. We'll provide links, I believe. But yeah, International House Oulu is for immigrants living in Oulu and also future residents coming to Oulu. And it's like a one-stop shop. So 11 years ago, whenever I came here, all of the places that I needed to get assistance from was all over the city. And even though the city's not big, it did take some time going from one place to the other. And this is the idea of International House Oulu, is to have all of these services in one place, so that, if there's anything that you need and anything that you're going through with any type of immigration or even challenges that you're having, you can come to International House Oulu and they would definitely help you out. One thing that we do at International House Oulu as well is we throw a lot of networking events. Our big one is board game nights. So people from all different backgrounds come together on an evening, and we play board games. We usually have a guest speaker. The next one that we're going to have the manager for tourism for Oulu, and she's going to tell about all the different events that are going to be happening this summer. And then after the speaker has their time, then everybody just starts having a board game night. And we offer a lot of workshops. So LinkedIn workshops, so how to build your LinkedIn profile, and exactly like what are employers looking for. So that it helps you tailor your LinkedIn profile to be more attractive to employers, to hopefully help you get that job that you're wanting. Also job hunting practices. What are the best things that Finnish companies are looking for, and how you will be the most successful finding those jobs. And lastly, at International House Oulu, we have a service point open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. till 15, or 3 p.m. And there's so many different services that you can for your needs. You can go to our website and you can find out more things there, and we'll also provide more links to some questions that you might have. Now I'm gonna hand it over to Max here. He's gonna talk about the working in Oulu's ICT sector. Thank you.
Cool, thank you very much, Adrian. So, hello to everyone online watching. My name is Max Raymond. I work within the ICT unit here at Business Oulu, helping lots of companies in the Oulu city region, so from small startups to bigger companies operating around the world with whatever services they need, whether it's to do with international business development, finding new avenues of sales, and so forth. And our main project is the ICT Oulu project, which is coming up to 2 years old now, I believe. And that's our main sort of channel for supporting ICT companies. And I am originally from the UK. I moved to Oulu in August 2017. And in this presentation, I split it into 2 parts. So to start with, I'll explain a little bit about the ICT sector in Oulu generally. And then afterwards, I'll explain a little more about the talent pool and the kind of jobs that are available in the region. So some of you might be aware of some of the companies that operate in Oulu, even if you did or didn't know that they were originally based here. So obviously Nokia is what a lot of people think of, but there's also Aura, Bowler, Halcyon, and iLock. They were all founded here in Oulu. And as a city, there's around 1,000 different technology companies operating across the city region. As I said, from startups to scale-ups and bigger multinational companies. And as a city, as a cluster, there's lots of really cool global initiatives going on at the moment. So there is a NATO 6G flagship center initiative that's just started. The gears have just started rolling on that. There's also a new campus being built by Nokia, which will lead to a lot more pioneering research and development work. And speaking of which, it's worth noting that Oulu's expenditure per capita, as of the last figures from Statistics Finland, which is in 2022, is the highest in the nation. And that's been the case for a few years. And I think if you ask a lot of companies within Oulu about their origin stories and how they got started, a lot of them will say, well, we got started because we were doing research at the university, or we were doing research projects with VTT, or through EU funding projects as well. That's the case for a lot of companies, whether it's hardware or software. And these are just some of the domains that companies are operating in. This is not a complete list for certain, but these are some of the sort of main areas at the moment. So obviously the cornerstone of the sector has been connectivity and wireless networks, and it has been for a few decades now. But there's also a lot of really interesting work being done in areas like robotics and IoT, Internet of Things. And as well, we've got a lot of different software developer companies as well, and solo entrepreneurs as well. And as I'm sure will be obvious as well, there's a lot more work being done with AI and ML, either as solutions themselves or companies are beginning to incorporate them more into their working processes. And the work that the companies do within Oulu is quite multidisciplinary. So for lots of different sectors, so automotive, there's a really strong group of health tech companies that are based here, a lot of cybersecurity companies that are based here, and also thinking more towards leisure and entertainment. There's a very tight-knit group of game studios that are based here. That community has been going for about 2 decades now. I wanted to bring up this because this is something that I think adds a lot to the sector as a whole. So Pylobed Pitching was an event that started, I think, in the mid-2010s, and and it's a pitching competition with a twist where the participants get an opportunity to pitch. Obviously, they get an opportunity to pitch their invention or solution to a jury, but they do it from an ice hole, because like one of the things that people tend to do in Finland, I think particularly in the wintertime, is after they go for a sauna, they then go into an ice hole, which is normally in quite cold, freezing temperatures, and they get 3 to 5 minutes to pitch their idea from there. And that was it's a different twist on that kind of event, and it was really popular. And then obviously, because of COVID, it had to stop for a few years, and it finally came back this year, and it's something that is, at least was in its first incarnation and is now in its new incarnation, internationally known. And I think for people that work in the sector here, it's something that is often looked forward to. It's also a great event to work at as well. And this photo is from, I think this was actually the first pitch of this year's competition, from a company called Natal Mind, who actually won polar bear pitching this year. But yeah, I thought I'd mention that. So now moving on to the talent in Oulu, just to give you a few numbers about the size of the talent pool. There's around 25,000 currently working in ICT, which when you consider the population size of Oulu, it's a fairly significant number of people. 1,000 of them are new graduates that come into the industry annually. I'll talk a little bit more about the academic side of things in a short while. And there's obviously a variety of different roles in both hardware and software. So this information is up to date after just double checking what jobs are currently open from companies in the region. So starting off with hardware, there is currently demand for things like engineers for microelectronics and semiconductor firms. Those two kinds of firms in particular, that's a part of the cluster that is growing quite fast now. And obviously when companies and startups begin to scale up, they will then look for more staff that can help them to do that. So that's one area of interest right now in terms of job vacancies. There's also a need for architects, for system-on-chip solutions providers. And as I said, wireless and connectivity has been a cornerstone of the industry. And so RF application specialists for innovative wireless technologies are also in demand as well. And in terms of software, there's a lot of different companies in the region. All of them use, as you can imagine, they use a variety of different types of coding languages within their work. I think it's fair to say that things like Java, JavaScript, C++, Python, I think they are the ones that are commonly used. But I think when you approach companies, it's always they will always have their own preferences. But those are the ones from anecdotal experience that are most common. And they're also industry agnostic in the sense that the work that they do is often for different kinds of sectors, which can be quite exciting, knowing that you're working for on lots of different projects, and that one is not the same as the other. And so there's lots of demand for developers for B2B and B2C, so business to business or business to consumer, web and mobile products, as well as embedded system engineers as well, people working in user experience as well. And as cloud technologies and AI and ML and cybersecurity, as the presence of companies increases in those domains, there will, of course, be more demand for specialists in those areas. And so returning back to education in Oulu, this quote here is from Juha Pennanen, who's a design center manager at Texas Instruments, which is a semiconductor company within the region. This quote actually featured in a video that we produced about the microelectronics part of our cluster, where it says the University of Oulu and other universities in Finland are the prime source of new talent and employees for Texas Instruments. So in Oulu, there's lots of different Academic institutions, two of them here. So there's University of Oulu, or Oulun yliopisto, and OAMK, so that's the University of Applied Sciences. There's lots of courses at those institutions, and there are also strong links within the ICT industry. And I think for a lot of people that study there, that's quite a good pathway into the industry, because it allows you to do work in your studies and potentially get placement opportunities and also research project opportunities that can be quite beneficial to you when you're looking for work. And in terms of working, this is another quote from Filip Polak, who is from Slovakia. He worked for a time at Nokia here, saying, "I think there is a lot of independence in the northern way of working. There is a lot of trust between the management and the employees. That is a big thing for me." And that Adrian touched on this in his presentation before me, that there is a lot of trust within companies in Finland, and that is definitely true of ICT companies as well. A lot of them, or quite a few of them, tend to be quite non-hierarchical, in which everyone is sort of trusted and given as much importance as everyone else, basically. And every company is different, but also there's a very strong multinational presence in companies as well, especially when you consider that a lot of work is done working with international clients and stakeholders. So it's a very internationally focused industry, as you can imagine. And I wanted to include this at the very end because I imagine that some people might be looking for opportunities in Finland right now, and I thought I'd give a few pointers. So the first thing would be to have a look at companies that are operating here that you want to work for, and make a list of the kind of companies that you want to approach. I think as much as it's good to look for vacancies in particular, I always think it's good to contact companies as well. I mentioned that you're interested, and to ask what the next step is in terms of sending an open application, because you never know, there might be jobs coming up in the near future that they are about to advertise. You never know with these kind of things, and I think it's always good to put yourself on their radar. And it's also useful for certain positions to set up a portfolio to show off your work, even if you are someone that hasn't yet managed to find your foot in the door of the industry. If you do personal projects that use coding skills and such like, that is often quite useful, because it shows your skills to an employer, but it can also show lots of other things like discipline and sort of planning and scheduling of your own projects, and that's always really useful. And this last point, refining your CV for a Finnish employer, to give a bit of anecdotal evidence, when I moved to Oulu, in the UK, things like a reference are something that comes right at the end of a job searching process. You do your application or CV and cover letter, you do your interview, and then they go and ask your reference at the very end, just to make sure that you're legitimate and so forth. In Finland, it took me a bit of time to learn that that kind of information is best displayed quite upfront, quite early on in the process. So there may be small differences in terms of what's good to show from the start compared to where you've been applying for a job previously. And I think International House Oulu will have a lot of guidance on that as well. But it's important to be aware of. And this is the ICT Oulu website. It's worth keeping this bookmarked because we have a directory of companies on the website. It's not a complete list of companies, but it's a very good sized list of companies. And they will be advertising on there if they're recruiting for people right now. So if you go to the website and you go to the companies directory, you can scroll through a list, and there will be like a tag that says recruiting now, and you can check out what kind of vacancies that they are looking to fill. And I believe that that information is being updated quite recently, so what's there should be quite up to date. And if you have any questions about the ICT sector in Oulu in general, or indeed life in Oulu in general, I'm always happy to answer them over email, on screen, or just find me on LinkedIn. I don't think I'm too difficult to find, but you never know with LinkedIn's algorithms. But yeah, that's all from me. So I guess now we should do questions. So if Adrian wants to come back on stage. Thanks to everyone that has sent in questions already.
Yeah.
Do you want to let's start with the weather.
Yeah.
Do you want to go for that one?
Yeah. The weather in Oulu, it changes a lot. So in the summer, it can it's around like 25, 20 degrees Celsius. But then in the winter, it can get down to like minus 30, minus 33. I wouldn't be too scared though, because like you just warm here, and so being minus 33, I actually like to go for a walk. It just feels really crisp and refreshing. So yeah, that's what I have for the weather. You want to add?
Yeah, I'd add the same. It's funny that this is happening now because spring is kind of blooming here in Finland now. We're in, I think today it's 15, 16 degrees or something like that, and it's really, and the long days where there's not so much in the way of sunset are currently happening, which is really nice, and also makes it fun to run in this weather as well. Having started to pick that up again with various pains of starting up running again. This next question, is your profession a marketing specialist? I would guess that's for you, Adrian. What do you think about job search specific for marketing and IT professionals? If you take care of the marketing side, I can add in some information on IT.
So my background is in sales and marketing, international sales and marketing. I think when it comes to job search is you have to be very specific with keywords, and also like go to job fairs and go talk to people, especially here in Finland. Whenever you network is really important. So even just making connections on LinkedIn and asking questions, and sometimes you can find a job that might not even be shown somewhere. So I think just being like really careful about what type of jobs you're searching and the keywords you're using.
Yeah, I'd echo a lot of that, and I think particularly in regards to job fairs, networking events, I think it's very easy to fall into a trap where you spend all your time looking for jobs and sending emails, but actually there's lots of different things. There's lots of different things happening in the city centre that might help you find work as well. I made that mistake once when I was looking for a job here, but it just takes one or two events to realise how many resources are out there to help you. And yeah, it's the same for in ICT as well as looking for the specific vacancies you're looking for. Just have a look at the companies that are here and get a sense of which companies you think would be good that you'd enjoy working for, and ask them for information on vacancies, and also always ask for feedback. That's super important, and it's always good. I think it's always good to be proactive on those things. Next question, how expensive is living in Oulu? This is so I think in terms of living in Oulu and expenses, the first thing to say is that I think wages here are aligned with the general expenses in not just in Oulu but in Finland in general. So I think, depending on where you're from, there are things that might seem more expensive on like a superficial level, like groceries and so forth. But then when the wages are aligned with that in mind.
I agree.
What is the average salary of an IT professional in Oulu? It depends, of course, from company to company, but in general, the kind of salaries, they are good to comfortable salaries, even for someone that is a trainee. It is a very well recognised and very sought after profession here in Oulu, and so that's the kind of salary I would say could be anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 at least starting out, but yeah, it's a very good to comfortable salary. And what can you explain? What does it mean? RF application. That's a very good question. I knew I'd forget to explain one technical thing. That is radio frequency. Is Oulu a good place for a family? Adrian?
Yeah. I think Oulu's a really great place for family. I have a 5-year-old son, and just the education, and even I know that he's like whenever I drop him off at daycare, I know he's safe. But there's also so many different things to do on the weekends. There's a lot of family events. I don't see myself leaving Oulu or even Finland in general, because I think in Finland it's very nice to have to raise a family.
And then this next question: what is your opinion about job opportunities dynamic for IT in Oulu, comparing with last year's? I think, anecdotally speaking, it's about, compared to this time last year, I think it's about there or thereabouts the same. I think there are the same sort of roles that are being advertised, especially as companies grow and as companies begin to scale up. As I've said in my presentation, naturally when they scale up, they will need more people to join them. I've seen that in quite a few different companies in both software and hardware in the past year. So I think, anecdotally speaking, it's there or thereabouts the same, but that's because the needs of companies change. And so, where some companies may need less people, some companies will need more. And I think that's always how it is.
Yeah, I think. Is there any more questions? You can put them in the chat.
Yeah. I think also I can add as well, with Oulu being a good place for family, I have lots of friends here who, and also lots of friends back home who really whenever we tell them about some of the nice things about family life here, they're always really wowed by it. So I think it's one of those things that is becoming more well-known outside of Finland as well. Do you think there is demand for English-speaking, no Finnish marketing specialists?
That's kind of difficult, but there are a lot of international companies here in Oulu, so I think that's the first thing that you should do. And even if you don't see a marketing job, I would put in an open application. But they're definitely out there. It's just, again, you have to look. For me, for example, if I wanted to do social media marketing, I would type in social media marketing manager Oulu, and then a list will come up of opportunities on LinkedIn or whatever job search that you use. So it goes back again to even typing English speaking marketing specialist Oulu. So you got to be really specific about how you search for the jobs, and you have to dig. They're there, but you have to work hard, especially for marketing or sales. It's really hard. IT it's a little bit easier because most of the language is international and English. So.
And I think as well, anecdotally, I have seen those kind of jobs appear in ICT quite recently. I'd also add LinkedIn is great for looking for that kind of information. I think for jobs that are where it might be primarily English speaking, I think there are definitely people on LinkedIn that post that information quite regularly. So it's worth looking into that. Sometimes I think people forget about how useful LinkedIn can be as a resource in terms of how useful it is for information to be shared in there for jobs and other things as well. So that's worth looking into. How difficult is Finnish to learn? It's a different language from English in a lot of different ways, as I learned when I was studying it. I had to kind of rewire my brain a bit in terms of how the grammar works. Having said that, I started learning Finnish properly almost 5 years ago now, and if you give yourself the patience and the time, because it's very easy to get really frustrated early on. I will know, because I was one of those people, that if you give yourself the patience and the time, then it will come over time as well. And I think it helps that if you try and speak Finnish every now and again and push yourself out of your comfort zone, people do tend to appreciate it really well here. And yeah, even if the communication breaks down in Finnish, person you're speaking to will often pick it up in English. At least in my experience.
Yeah, same for me. And like also like it just depends on how much you put into learning Finnish. I know some people that have learned it within 1 year and like passed the language test. But then like for me, for example, like I understand everything. I'm just not very good at speaking. So like I can be around a conversation that's happening in Finnish, and if I know what to say in Finnish, I usually reply in Finnish. But if not, then I usually just add my 2 cents in English, and the conversation just keeps on going in Finnish. But it just depends on like your determination and how much you're willing to put in the work, because it isn't the easiest language to learn, but it is doable.
Yeah, I think it's also doable to a point where no one is expecting you to be a perfectionist overnight. I think as long as it's easy to understand, like my Finnish is these days, it's fine in certain areas, but it's understandable, which I think for a lot of people here, that often it's enough. Whilst we wait for any further questions, I think I will also add that there are maybe more resources now. I know that Finnish got added on Duolingo, I think a year or two ago, and I really need to ask people about how they've experienced that, because I think given the ease of Duolingo as a platform, I think that really helps. And there's also lots of resources that help here. I think the national broadcaster, which is Oulu, has their own sort of tools that can help people. So, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure like every city has probably like some free Finnish courses that you can learn as well, that you can attend like weekly. So I think almost every city has some resources for you to learn Finnish.
Yeah, and I don't think I've said anything hideously embarrassing by mistake yet in Finnish. So, touch wood. Maybe give 1 more minute for any further questions. But I guess, Adrian, as you said, if people want to know more about the resources that are available here at International House Oulu, they can go to that website?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. How long time, in your opinion, the job search process will take? So how many months before a graduation student has to start the job seeking? I think in terms of the job search process, it varies, and I've been in job searching situations both in the UK and here that have taken differing amounts of time depending on what vacancies have been available, and I think what sort of connections I've made, or what happy accidents I've managed to encounter. So it's difficult to say, but I think in terms of the process, I think one thing that does speed it up slightly is making sure that when you send your applications in, that you follow up so that employers are prompted to contact you if there's been any news, because the last thing that you will want is to have lots of different applications in the fire, but then not really knowing where they are. So it's always good to be proactive, because then that definitely gives you the drive to then keep going and progress if something doesn't quite work in your favour, for sure. I think in terms of from graduation, in terms of ICT, there is a very strong pathway. I can't speak for all other sectors, unfortunately, but I think it's definitely more than possible to get a foot in the door in a company, especially if you do things like placements.
Yeah.
That often helps.
Yeah.
Hi, can you explain about the immigration process for non-EU citizens? So I think the best thing is that there might be some information on not just the International Households website, but also Migri, who are the immigration service here in Finland. So I think if you would go to, I think it's migri.fi, that has information about all the sorts of bureaucracy stuff around the process for non-EU citizens. And I think I'll allow a bit more time just in case any further questions come in. Just to remind people that if they want to look for, I think also the Business Oulu website also has a company directory on there. That's not just ICT, that is for companies across all kinds of different sectors as well. So if you're looking to see what kind of companies are operating in the sectors that you're interested in or you have any experience in, that's a good place to go and look. I think if there are no further questions, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yes, and there's a link there, infofinland.fi from our colleague Sala. That has more information. Yeah, I think that's it. Yep. So yeah, thanks to everyone for watching. Mm-hmm. As I said, International House Oulu's website and ICT Oulu's website will have more information based on what we've just said. And yes, I believe that's it. So thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.